From Brisbane, Australia, this is episode 89 of The Normal Blokes, a podcast dedicated to improving the competitive 40k experience. I'm Dineeth, and today we're joined by Liam.
Hello.
And Jordan.
Hey guys, how are we?
All right, so today, episode 89, we're going to cover the Victorian Team Challenge that we all attended. And it was the Normal Bloke final. So Queensland did quite well down in Vic. It was a four-man team event run by the guys. Matt Morosoli pretty much headed it, but I know Lee, Adam, and Jez and Dean as well down there helped with a little bit of TOing. And it was a great event, guys. 26 teams, wasn't it?
It was
26 teams, so just over 100 players, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and really good showing. A lot of the guys, split up, including ourselves, split up and had some newer players attend. And the Vics did the same thing. They split some of their top players off and made a few teams. And it was a really good event. On this episode, we'll be covering our teams. We did a little bit last episode on talking through who was in our team. We'll recap that. We'll go through our rounds, and then me and Liam will spend a bit of time deconstructing and dissecting the Normal Blokes versus Normal Blokes final round 5. But how you guys tonight? You good? Recovered from the weekend?
Still recovering.
To be honest, as soon as I landed, I had a COVID scare. I've got a flu symptom, and I've been tested. I am negative, and my heart goes out to Victoria, which I know is back in the midst of it.
Yeah. It's rough. I mean, we can only hope. I've got a Victorian Stewie trainer on my June teams, and of course there's bigger fish to fry than 40k, guys. There's definitely more important stuff in the world than that, but I would love to bring Stewie up for June, so please, Vix, stay safe.
Hell
do the
yeah.
right thing. But yeah, guys, I guess we'll start with Geordie. Run us through your team, the Art of War Hive Mind that you were on, and who played what.
So yes, I was in Art of War Hive Mind. I was on Blood Angels. Eric was on the NIDS GSC, and he was captaining. We had Aaron Green. Aaron was playing his Orc list, which has lots of mech guns and lots of trucks and lots of boys. And we also had Diffie, who was Josh Diffie or Josh Diff. Diffie, he was on Custodes and Sisters. So it had a big squad of bikes, a 9-man squad of bikes, and then he had some Repentia, just some normal sisters, and a couple of rhinos as well. And then I think it might have had some rats as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it had some Seraphim and stuff as well. I saw it's a really interesting list, and it's really cool to see Josh Diffie, the father of Australian competitive 40k, back in action and playing some games. That was sick. I think. Literally everyone at the event wanted to pair into Diffie because it was like you won't get another chance in a while.
Nah, he started to come back into his element at the end of the tournament.
Nice.
I reckon if he had a couple more rounds under his belt, he might have started to really pull out some big wins. So he was starting to feel more comfortable playing again, which was good to see. And it was just good, man. It's good to be in a team with him in there as well.
Yeah, he's a real positive dude. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's a lot of fun. So, and then it was also great to be playing next to Aaron and Eric as well. Two Art of War guys. So, it was nice to just throw a normal bloke in there and be like, "Hey, we're over here. Normal blokes are here as well."
Yeah, dude, nice. And Liam, your old faithful, tried and tested Tallhammer rep the event.
Yeah, these three guys I've played lots of team events with. So I played with Lockie Carter, Brian Lakeland, and Ben Warrior. Ben was playing a Death Guard army. Brian was playing the ubiquitous Drukhari with a few Talos. Lockie was playing a Raven Guard. I really want to go first army, and I was playing a Thousand Suns mixed with Demons army. So it was a bit of a weird team, but it worked pretty well for pairings. Overall, had a lot of really weird, interesting tools in there. And these are guys who, I know extremely well. Basically, that they're all going to be groomsmen at my wedding. They're all people that I like very, very much, and I count some of my best friends on the planet.
Nice, dude. Yeah. And, definitely going into a team event with your friends is awesome because you understand like the emotional side of, playing this game at a high level and the stresses you can feel, and you could probably read that off your mates pretty quickly. So, it's good to be able to manage that as a captain. And yeah, I guess my team, every team event I've gone to, I've tried to mix up the team a little bit, and I haven't gotten rid of one of them though. I've kept Wayne by my side. So we had me on Blood Angels. I moved to that big sword list, literally copying essentially what Jordan played at the last team event. But I added some land speeder storms. I thought they were a bit of cool tech. So I was like a good put up list, a good bit of a bully to go into some lists that couldn't handle all the combat. Then we had Sam Rubino, who's this was actually his first interstate event, running Drakari, and
DJ Drakari.
Yeah, DJ Drakari, spinning the beats himself, and he did really well at the recent Gladiator Gaming GT. I'm pretty sure it was top of the pack or close to top of the pack day one. And then he met the Artists of Flesh mirror match. So it was good info for the team tournament. We can't pair Sam into Artists, but he brought us some really big wins with Drakari. And then we had our big shield list in Wayne with like 100 Poxwalkers, Blightlord Bricks, and Death Shroud. So Wayne was, as always, happy to go into any game. He got a grand total of 1 green in the event. The others were reds and yellows, but he came away with 4 wins and 1 draw. So he was undefeated. He was an awesome member of our team. He scored the highest battle points for us, so he definitely carried. And then Nicky Argent was in our team as a Knights player, and he was a bit more of a tech list. I think it was nice having a mono Knights list to bully the pairings a bit, because obviously some people would want to stay out of that or avoid it. But we used him as a way to soak up like the lighter tables, because obviously he wants nothing to do with line of sight blocking terrain. So if there was a lighter table, he'd be a really good put up if he had a clean sheet. So whoever he got, stick him on the light table, saves the dense tables for like me and Wayne. So yeah, really good lineup. I guess we can roll into our round 1 matchups if you guys are ready.
Yeah, man.
Always ready. Let's do it.
Start with you, Geordie. Who did the Hive Mind have round 1?
Hive Mind played the Abusement Park. I love the team name.
Yeah.
So they had Chris Ingle. He was playing Death Guard, so I think he had a list with I think it was a couple of Livies and some big Terminator units. We had Dan Banks on Thousand Suns, who I ended up playing. Richard Wood, who was playing the Astra Militarum, so he was playing some out of line of sight shooting and some tank commanders as well. And then we had Drew Meeson on Orcs, which this was the only Orc list at the event that had the Stomper and the kill tanks. So this was a pretty cool list. It was super interesting because the guy just rocks up with his big stuff and just wants to play. And by the way, a Stomper can actually cover an entire objective if it sits on top of it. We had to go over this before the matchups because we paired into this, and there was actually a few of us had reds and we didn't want to play certain games. I really, really wanted the Orcs, and I wanted to stay away from the Thousand Suns because of all their invulnerables. But it turns out I ended up playing the Thousand Suns, and I got a 17-3, so I was pretty happy with that.
Nice.
It was really hard on the table I had too. It was Hammer and Anvil deployment, and I had to basically come out into the open to grab objectives, and he had like Terminators. He had a massive brick of Rubric Marines, and then he also had 2 Predators with autocannons and las cannons. So every time I came out to touch objectives, I was basically just getting shot. And I had nowhere to hide, which is a really hard game for me. So I had to play the late game and kind of bully the center or bully an objective on the flank to come away with the win. So Dan was actually a really nice guy. I think he's just kind of come into 9th edition. He played really well. He kind of knew some of his rules pretty good too. So, but yeah, great opponent. And so Eric ended up playing the Death Guard. Got an 18-2. Aaron's Orcs went into the Guard player. Aaron took a 20-0. And Diffie went into the Orcs and got a 20-0.
Nice, dude. Sounds like a solid round 1 for you guys.
It was, man. 75-5. So we were flying high.
Yeah,
very
nice.
high.
Nice, dude. And pairings went well, I'm assuming?
Sort of. So Diffie went into the Orcs, and surprisingly, I think that was a red.
Mm-hmm.
But the salvos actually seemed to work pretty well. Aaron went into the guard, which was a yellow. I went into the Thousand Suns, which was a yellow, and Eric went into a red. But we all came out with the wins.
That's great.
Yeah, so that we kind of, once we got to the tables, we knew that we could kind of just turn the games. We didn't really want to put Eric into any death guard, but he was happy to take it for the rest of us, so we could kind of get the better matches that we wanted, because the death guard was probably going to be the hardest game out of the lot.
Yeah.
Because it's just death guard.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then that went good that round. So we were happy with it, the overall outcome. We all played really well, and we were ready for round 2.
Yeah, nice. And Liam, what about you, mate? How was your round 1?
Yeah, so round 1 we played Diplomacy ? And that was interesting for us because we didn't know any of the names on that list, but matchup wise, it was actually reasonably tough for us. We had quite a bunch of reds there. They had a Gene Stealer cult army that was really, really interesting. So they had Edward Askey, who was playing Gene Stealer cult. It was a really interesting list with Ridge Runners and then some allied Tyranids, which meant that he could have a unit of Hive Gun in there, which is really awesome. There was then an Orc player that was Ethan Char. Then Fletcher Knapton playing Adeptus Astartes. That was actually a Blood Angel army, but he's labeled Adeptus Astartes on DUP. And then Phil, who was playing Grey Knights. So it was an interesting set of pairings because they used the Blood Angels player as their put up, which was put them, I think, on the back foot from the outset there. So we paired, I think we paired very, very well in this round. As for every team event that I go to with these guys, we spend so long on the first round because we're always so nervous going into that first round. We're like, we want to start the tournament off well. So we spent, honestly, like the entire flight there coming up with every possible option of what could happen. We're pretty happy with the outcome. So I ended up playing the Blood Angels. Brian ended up playing the Orcs. Ben ended up playing the Grey Knights. And Lachlan ended up playing the Gene Stealer Cults. So it was 3 greens for us and a yellow in terms of matchups. It was only when we got about a turn in that my opponent, who was an absolute legend, by the way, a guy named Fletcher, said to me that this was his first tournament ever. And most of them, this was their first tournament too. I look over and Brian is, a whole raider deep inside the Orc player. When Brian walks over and goes, "Hey man, I'm not sure my opponent's played a tournament before. He's really nice, but he doesn't know any of the Drukhari rules." And I was like, he's in for a surprise. So it was a pretty tough round 1 for Diplomacy, but they were all absolute legends, and I've added 2 of them on Facebook, and we're already talking because they're absolute champions, and I'd love to sort of keep talking with these guys. So we ended that round with a 20, a 20, a 20, and a 19, starting the tournament with our 79 battle points, from the out of 80 for the first round. That was a pretty solid win to start the event.
Flying high, mate. Well done. Yeah. And I guess whoever got that 19 on your team, he's cut. Was it Ben?
It was absolutely Ben, and he will never live it down. He's always letting us down. It's always Ben.
Good old Benny. We'll talk more about Ben letting you down later in the episode, Liam. I'm sorry, Ben. But yeah, in our first round, the team full send, we had the ominous Matt Morosoli and his team, TMNT. So the pairings were released online on a video with Chelsea drawing names out of a hat. And we copped Soli's team. So it was Matt Morosoli, undisputed reigning champ of Uprising Adelaide on Dark Eldar. It was Gus Hebblewhite, who's a really good Harlequin player. He was on Harleys and Craftworlds. Blake, who was on Chaos with Double Terminator. And some bikers, pretty scary into Plague-Burst Crawlers. And Stewie, motherfucking trainer, on Grey Knights. So 3 of these 4 were top 10 at Uprising Adelaide, and we were, doing a lot of planning to make sure we could mitigate our bad matchups here. And, looking at our little matchup spreadsheet, the only red on the table that we had as like a true terrifying red was me into Matt Morosoli. So I thought, okay, we need to mitigate this Dark Eldar matchup. In case Soli's in champ, we've got to have someone that can handle him. So we had Wayne and Nick Argent in champ, ready for that. The option of Wayne on Nick Argent. We ended up putting Wayne down there. And first put up, I believe we got, we had to put up, we put Drakari in, we put Sam out, and I think Stewie paired into it. And then we got Blake, the Chaos, list into me, the Blood Angels. Matt Morrisoli caught the Chaos Knights, and Gus caught Wayne and Champ. So, overall in pairings, I was really happy because we avoided the red. We got 2 yellows, 2 greens on the matrix. Unfortunately, Sam went down to Stewie's GK. Those shots, all those Psy Cannons and silencers everywhere just bring down the Drakari. So Sam got a 4-point loss. Nick Argent had a really good first turn against Matt Morrisoli. Was looking really confident, but then Soli played his heart out, and Matt got Soli 20'd Nick. Wayne got a 15-5 win against Gus, and I got a 20-0 win against Blake, which ended up with a draw, 39-41. So really happy that we were able to draw.
Joke.
The normal joke's got a draw, mate. So that's the second time I've caught Soli round 1. And funnily enough, getting a draw round 1 at both events has really helped our path, to the final round.
The victory.
Yeah, the path was strong. So had a really good round 1. At the end of round 1, I believe Jordan and Liam, your boys' teams were at the top, and then you played each other.
We did.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, so run us through.
I'll take this one away.
I guess let's hear about pairings from Jordan's side, and then let's hear about pairings from Liam's side. That'll be a good way to look at it.
Yes. So we went stream table. We were round 2 playing Tall Hammer. So Liam's team. Now, going into this, we had some good pairings here. We mainly wanted to keep me away from Brian because I'd done a test game. I'd played a practice game with Brian prior to the event, and those Talos made the way he played the Talos made it very hard for me to interact with him with my current list. So we tried to keep me away from that. But I was happy to play Ben. I was happy to play Lockie because Lockie I can score points against. If I go first, I could win. And I didn't really want to play Liam, but I thought monsters, my army actually goes okay into monsters. Turns out they didn't. So it was a bit of a rough round. We got the pairing actually went pretty well. So we got Eric. Eric was on a green because the Tyranids and GSC actually go really well into that Raven Guard matchup. Because of the blips, they can't pre-game. The blips just stop them from moving into the pre-game position to do anything effective against them. So that was really good. So they can't come within 9 of the blips. The blips come up at the end of the movement phase, and you can also put out fake blips and things along those lines. So that was a good green. Me going to Liam was a yellow. I didn't want to play Liam, but if I had to, I would. We had Aaron into Ben. Now that game, Aaron and Ben had a practice game prior, and Aaron had actually won the game. So we were kind of confident there that if Eric won and Aaron won, we could actually draw the round if I could just score some points against Liam and if Diffie could score against Brian. Because essentially Diffie's list went okay into Brian's just because of all the salvos, and the bikes are actually pretty, they're pretty hard to put down with their invulnerables and transhumans and things along those lines. But the round definitely didn't go our way. I picked the incorrect table against Liam. It was also, I should probably mention too, the mission was Battle Lines, which is probably my most hated mission in all of this current edition.
100%.
It's a terrible mission. It's terrible for Marines, especially when we're trying to, when there's only 4 objectives and you're playing Hammer and Anvil deployment. It's really, really hard, especially if the table doesn't allow the movement.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like Battle Lines it's one of those missions where you have to have the ability to feed units out. Like I know in our army, our Drakari player Sam loved Battle Lines. He's like, yeah, I'll play Battle Lines all day. And same with Chaos Knights. Like Nick was like, yeah, I love Battle Lines. So it's so army dependent.
Yeah, that's it. And the way our list was essentially designed was most of our list wanted to hide, and we looked at the terrain going into the tournament. When we actually got there was a bit of rule changes which kind of threw a few things off for us in relation to bases on terrain and then windows on the bottom floor. But Aaron's list wanted a light table. If we could get a light table, we could Aaron can shoot all day and just kill everything because of the mech guns. And Eric's list, Eric is Eric. He can just function on any table that he plays because of the way the Gene Stealers work in that list. Is he just throws them up the table. They're troop. They can charge something, kill it, and then they can overrun and move again, and they can move on to another objective. And it's a really cool list. It's got some cool little bits of tricks and jank, which is really, really nice. And Diffie's list is just like run in, kill stuff, the same as mine. So, and then with the bikes, and you can redeploy the bikes and a few other things. But going into that round, we thought we had some pretty good pairings. As we could see by the end of it, things didn't go according to plan. I went down to Liam. I think it was 97 to 26 to Liam, and I picked very aggressive secondaries because I was basically hoping to go first and just start pushing. So I picked Dom, so I could just, if I could put bodies on objectives every turn, I would always hold it because the big monsters couldn't hold the objectives compared to, say, 2 Marines. But a few things didn't go my way, and Liam just outplayed me. So I went down that round. Aaron was looking pretty close with Ben. He ended up going down. I saw this one moment where Aaron fired a bunch of mech guns. Actually fired one mech gun at Morty, and it rolled max hits. Then those hits exploded, and then he rolled, I think 5 of them rolled wounds, which is really hard for the mech guns because they function on 2 dice, have to beat the toughness of the character. So I think 4 or 5 went in. Ben rolls his saves, fails 3. Aaron picks up the dice to wound and rolls 3 6s. And I was like, I was watching it occur, and what just happened? And so he rolls 18 damage into Morty, neg 1 to that, so it all goes down to 15 damage. But it was just incredible to watch that occur. And yeah, Eric went really, really well into the game with Lockie, which we expected. But yeah, there's just a few things didn't go our way. Plus, this is something we discussed after the event too, because this problem came up in round 3 for us, where we definitely you have to go back to your pairings and review them when the mission's declared, or who you're playing, what round you're playing when you know the mission,
100%.
because the mission plays a huge part in this. And we discovered this in this round was a big problem. We reviewed it, but we didn't review it enough. And then we didn't review it enough in round 3 as well, which is where it cost us another loss. That it was another 20-0, but I'll get onto that in the next round. So, but things didn't go away in the end, and we got 28 to 52. Yeah. So Tallhammer won.
Yeah, Liam, anything you want to add on to that with the pairing side of things?
Yeah, so it's interesting because what Jordan there about how, like, before the round, when you know the mission you're playing and the tables you're playing on. And how that can change pairings. That's something we focused quite a lot on this event, something we don't normally do. And so, for example, like you mentioned, Jordan, Ben had played Aaron prior to the event and knew that his list was a tough matchup for him. But this mission in particular, because there's only 4 objectives, it really takes away from the board control power of a list like Aaron's. It's just that he can't really cash in on all the MSU. And also, of the 4 tables we were playing on, we knew from sort of scouting it out beforehand that one table at the end, the grey table, you could actually hide Mortarion on. You could start him on the table, and then as soon as Aaron came forward for the objectives, Morty could jump forwards and start being in combat pretty much from turn 1 or 2 without being shot by the mech guns. And that's why I believe, I forget who actually won the roll-off, but in terms of pairings, Ben into Aaron was an orange or even a red, but on that particular table, on this particular mission, we rated it a yellow. So we put Ben up in the hopes that Aaron would be paired into him because he had a good experience previously. And that is what ended up happening on the exact table that we wanted to, because we got to pick. So that we were really confident in that game. And Ben got 12 there. Obviously, me playing you and Brian playing the Custodes, like Diffie's, Custodes and Scions, was a tough game in both respects. Table played a big part in Jordan and my game for sure. Just because it was battle lines, he kind of has to split his deployment either way, and it's really hard to actually hide from Magnus even on a dense table. He just moves so fast. And Jordan did something that you actually did the same thing, Dineeth, but we'll touch on that later. Jordan combat squatted all of his squads, which was awesome because it meant that you could feed more units onto the objectives. But the flip side of that was that psychic powers that do splash damage now have double the number of targets to splash to.
Big gateway.
So when you're crowding in ruins trying to hide, if I can draw a bead, which, as Jordan mentioned, there were some holes in the ruins and stuff like that. It sort of meant that I had a lot of units to get nice D6 values off of. The funny thing about Jordan and my game is that I don't think I cast Infernal Gateway again. I kind of had that one turn where I got a really good roll on it. And after that, Jordan never put 2 units within 3 inches of each other. He made sure that no units were ever close to each other. And I was like, I can see that the power of like the trauma is making Jordan play differently. But that was overall a really, really tough round for us in terms of pairings. You guys had lists that we knew were tough for us to pair into. And also, I've never been successful at versing a team Eric has paired for at a team event. I've never done well at pairing against Eric before, and I'm really, really proud of my 3 lads coming out with the big W in that round.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys played very well.
Nice. And I guess our round 2 was awesome. We played the boys Morty and the Shitslingers, absolute lads. And I guess with our pairings, I have never, ever paired this bad in my life, guys. So these guys had a Sam on Death Guard. They had Jugal on Space Wolves. They had Lachlan on Guard, an awesome Scions list, like a million Scions, and Nick on Craft Worlds. And so their Death Guard player got put up. I was going to put Wayne in because Wayne had a big red in the guard. And I was like, Wayne, do you want it? Do you want it? He's like, I don't want it. I don't want it, Dineeth. And I was like, Wayne, if I don't put you up, you're going to catch the red. And I was like, and then Wayne was like, no, give it to Sam. Give it to Sam. Sam can beat it. So I put Sam in, and that was like a yellow to orange. Not a good game for Sam, but Wayne's like, I'll show him how to beat it. So Wayne just went over to Sam, told him some cool stuff, told him about the secondaries, gave him a plan for Death Guard. And then Space Wolves went up. I went into it. That was a yellow. Wayne fell into their guards. That was a red. And then in Champ was Nick Argent against their Craft World. So that was a yellow. So I got 2 yellows, an orange, and a red. Funnily enough, our player Sam was playing their player Sam, and our player Nick was playing their player Nick. So filling out the scorecards was fucking annoying. I was like, which Nick? Which Nick am I looking at? Who's winning? Which Sam? I'm like, as captain walking past the tables, I'm like, who the fuck is winning? I played an awesome player, Jugal. It was actually his first tournament. He's collected up a Space Wolf army. Really good game. He had a big unit of Thunder Cav that we talked about it at the end. He committed too early, and I just, classic Blood Angels fashion, Geordie just whirlwinded them. Sangard went in, killed a big puncher unit, and then just held the middle on battle lines. Got a 12-8 win.
Whirlwind.
Yeah, our Sam was able to get a 20-0 on Sam, who played Death Guard. I think he killed Morty in like 2 turns. I think he did like turn 1. I think he said, I'm just going to fire some lances at Morty because there's no other target. You know, just see what happens. And he did like 10 or 12 damage. And then he's like, okay, there's a game here. And then he just killed Morty, moved forward.
Holy crap.
Yeah, insane, right? Wayne against the Imperial Guard player, like, I think Wayne pushed out to the point where all the Scions were dropping in corners, and then turn 2, he did this big push and wrapped 3 Leman Russes up and just held the table with his Poxwalkers and got a big 20-0 and a big red. And Nick Argent was able to shoot his way through some Craftworld Eldar and get a 14-point win. He said at one point he made like 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 6 6-ups against someone. And I was like, oh my goodness, classic Argent. And Nick's got this habit of whenever he rolls well on like a lightning lock or something, he takes a picture and puts it into the group chat and adds no context, but just puts the picture in or like just shows us. He's like, hey, look what I rolled. It's so cool. So cute. He just takes a picture of his dice rolls. It's like when you send a picture of a participation award back to mum being like, hey, I won something. He's like, hey, Dineeth, look how much I rolled. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude.
Look at me, Dad. I can roll 6.
And I think there was one game he came back. He's like, I got a new record for my lightning cannon or whatever on his Megara. He's like, I got 21 hits. And I was like, oh my God. So even though I paired like an absolute idiot, we came out of this with 4 wins. So I did pretty well.
Well done.
Yeah. And those guys are awesome. But sorry, I won't take up too much of your time. But Geordie, who did you play round 3?
Round 3, we played 2 bulls and 2 cucks. I know, what a team name, right? So this was.
Did it end up being no bulls and 4 cucks, or was it 4 bulls and no cucks at the end?
It was definitely not what we thought it was. Still 2 bulls and 2 cucks because it turned into a draw round.
Oh my God!
But this was If anyone is trying to look at on DUP for the round, this round was actually deleted by accident. Not sure how it happened. But anyway, going into this round, we ended up pairing pretty well. So they had Jason Chevalier on the Death Guard list with the 100 Poxwalkers, 30 Possessed, and a bunch of characters and a couple of Death Shroud as well. They had Matthew Antonello. He was playing his Grey Knights list, which had Drago, had a big strike team, couple of strikes, Terminator squad, Paladins, and some Rhinos. Had 5 Rhinos. Very strange, but yeah, obviously for smites or something and deployment jank. Jeremy was on his sister's list, and then we also had Dean Simback on his Chaos Emperor's Children list. So going into pairings, a few things went our way. So Eric ended up playing against Antonello, which I think was a green for Eric, or it might have even been a yellow. I was playing into Jason Chevalier, which was the Death Guard list. So this was a yellow for me because I've played. So Wayne plays a very similar list. It's not similar in the aspect. It's got a few different things in it, but it's still similar in the aspect that it has 100 Poxwalkers and all the other characters behind it. The only difference is it doesn't have a foul blight. So that made the list a little easier for me to interact with because I can kind of avoid the fight last because my army needed to avoid that. We had Jeremy into Diffie, and then we had Aaron into Dean Simbeck. Now, we didn't want the game with Aaron and Dean because Aaron can't screen out the Emperor's Children, the squad, the big 20-man squad that just with all the guns, they just shoot. They get 3 shots each, strength 5. They go to 2 damage, and they can shoot twice. So essentially, it's 120 shots hitting on 2s or rolling 1s, and they can +1 to wound for vets. Aaron didn't want to play that game, and he ended up playing that game. He didn't go first, and he lost like half his army in the first turn, which was pretty ridiculous. So Aaron went down pretty bad that round. It was a red for him. It was a yellow for him, and this is where I discussed earlier about declaring, like going through matchups. If Aaron said that if he had a different table and it wasn't Dawn of War, because this was a Dawn of War mission, we should have definitely looked at rejigging a few things around, because I could have probably played this round into Dean because of the infiltrators. I can push out the Noise Marines. So Jeremy going into Diffie, that ended up being a draw. I think that was a yellow, so that worked out really well. Eric came back with an 18 or a 20 against Antillo, so that went well. And I played into Jason with that Death Guard list. Now, I've played Wayne a few times now. I've played against the new Poxwalker list a couple of times now as well. I lost my first game into Wayne, and then I won my second game into Wayne. So my confidence was pretty high going into any Poxwalker list because the list I had designed dealt with them really well. And basically just played the same game that I played against Wayne and ended up, I picked thin the ranks, engage on all fronts and banners. And I ended up scoring, I think, 95 to his 40. So I ended up, to his, might have been less than 40. More than 40, sorry. So I ended up, I think it was a 20-0 to me. But it was an awesome game. The Poxwalker list is interesting because he went first, and every time I play against that list, I seem to go second. And I've been having long discussions with Eric about the Death Company, and I always seem to just send them up the table if I go first, if I find a good target. And in this game, I had a chance to send them, and I chose not to, and I actually held them back, which turned out to be one of the best decisions I made in the late game, where they ended up hitting another unit and just absolutely crushing it. The hand flamers in my veteran squads were punching well above their weight. I ended up firing 8 hand flamers at a possessed unit and killed 5 of them, which blew me away. Because once you're in Assault Doctrine, they're all neg 1 AP. So it was fantastic. It was an awesome game. And the mission really kind of pushed my way, and I ended up basically pretty much killing everything in his army. The only thing that was left was some characters.
Jesus, mate, so calm down with the hand flamers. Jesus.
I know. I killed every single Poxwalker. He rezzed 1 squad, which ended up failing a charge, and then I just ignored them. and then I killed all the possessed and then killed 2 units of Death Shroud. So the only thing that was left was, some characters. Mate, it was a pretty awesome game. Jason was an absolute champion to play against. I don't think he'd played against the Blood Angels army like this before. The Lightning Claws go so well into that list. So it was an awesome round. We ended up drawing the round though, because I think Eric. I think because Diffie drew, Eric won, I won. Oh, maybe. I don't even know now. I don't know how we got a draw in the round, but because I can't even see the scores. But yeah, we ended up drawing, and it was a fantastic game. We wanted to win that one, unfortunately, we didn't. And then round 4 we went to Devil Trigger. So
yeah, cool. And Liam, who did you play round 3?
Round 3, we played the team, the Painters. Again, I can't see this round because it's enclosed on DUP, but I played a fellow called Adrian, who was playing a Zench army, which was awesome and so beautifully painted. He was one of the fellows who entered his army for our best painted at the event. He had an amazing display board with all these awesome, like, Heresy era Thousand Suns models painted in beautiful schemes. And he had a Chaos Knight with some custom-made bits on it and everything, a custom-built Defiler. The whole army was actually a work of art. The problem with works of art, though, is they tend to be fragile. Magnus did a lot of things wrong to Adrian's army in the first turn. Basically what happened was, because the terrain was set up in a certain way, he used his knight as a shield to try and stop the smites and things like that, which was an okay idea, but the Infernal Gateway splash damage meant that a lot of his characters got sort of killed very early on, just because of splash damage, which was very, very rough for him. He, however, was probably the nicest dude I've played at a tournament in an incredibly long time, and he had my vote for best painted through and through because his army was so beautiful. What was hilarious about my game against Adrian was, at the end of the event, it turned out that I got highest battle points, but Adrian got best painted. And it was very funny because when they said, Liam got highest battle points, Adrian is standing next to me. And he actually leans in and goes, "I'm there to help you, mate." And we had a bit of a giggle, and I walked up and got the trophy. And then they go, "Oh, Adrian got best painted." And then I lean in, "I'm here to help you, mate." And so it was just good. It was just good value that sort of both of us got like both of us kind of helped each other get an award at this event, which I thought was overall very hilarious.
That's great.
It was a tough round for painters. They admitted that their name is what they go to tournaments for. They like to paint armies and incredibly high standard, and bloody oath did they do that. But we got 4 wins in that round, 3 20s and a 19 again. The 19 belonging to Ben Warrior, once again letting
Classic
the team down.
Benny. What are you doing, mate?
Who'd you play round 3 today?
We actually played the Pokemon. So we played the wonderful Adam Camilleri and his band of misfits. So Adam's done some really cool work, and he's rounded up some interstaters, and he's made a really cool team. So they had Craig Sumpton from WA on Drakari. I believe Craig is recently out of a GT win as well. Josh McMillan on the Sisters, and Richard Hill on Chaos. And I've actually played a lot of TTS on a team with Richard, so it was really cool to meet him face to face. He played as our Marine player on one of the WTC style events that Greekhammer ran. So in this set of pairings, I guess I'll talk mainly about the pairings, not the games, but we had 2 reds. We had me into the Drakari, and Blood Angels don't like that game. And we had Wayne into Adam Camilleri's Dark Angels Flyers, because Wayne's Poxwalkers just insta-die to that. So because of that, our strategy, and the rest of our team, Nick Argent and Sam, had a pretty clear sheet, like yellows and greens. So our strategy was, okay, let's keep Dineeth and Wayne in the pairings. Let's put up, either Sam or Nick. So we decided, looking at the tables, there wasn't really a light table, so we thought, fuck it, let's put Nick in champ. It's shit for him anyway on a table. Hope he gets a good matchup. And let's bully with Sam. So we put Sam up, and Adam puts the Dark Angels into Sam. And I was like, cool, that's a yellow for Sam. The Dark Angels can do a bit of damage, but Sam can also, just kill Marines. So they picked a table. Then they put Richard out, and I saw that as my opportunity. And, the fact that Adam was out, Wayne's thanking his lucky stars because his red's gone. So whatever Wayne gets, it's good. Then Richard came out with the Chaos, So I thought, okay, I'm going to put myself into this so I can get away from the Drakari. So immediately those two actions, we get rid of our reds on the matrix and things start to clear up. And that's kind of always the way I pair. I try and I don't care about getting lots of yellows. I'll just rather not get reds. So, I'd rather pair safely. So I was really happy at that stage. And then Nick Argent went into Macmillan's Sisters, which was a yellow to orange for him. But he actually thought Josh Macmillan had more Val Hart Sisters at Ignore Neg 2 when he actually didn't. So Nick had a good game. And then Wayne in Champ caught... sorry, not Wayne in Champ. Wayne ended up getting the Drakari. So that was a yellow for him. And we did really well that round. I'll keep it pretty brief, but we got, 2 to 3 yellows and a green. I was a green, and I had the lower score with a 10-10 draw. So, sorry, boys. They carried me that afternoon. Sam was able to get a 13-7 against Adam Camilleri. He had a really good set of shooting with his flamers and lancers and did really well. Wayne was able to get a 14-6 win against Craig's Drakari, which is awesome for the Poxwalker Horde. They tend to push forward, push up a flank, threaten a home objective, and just whittle down the boats over time, with the Mortal Wounds and the Flamers and the Bolters. So Wayne did really well in that game. Wayne, I think, played Drakari 2 or 3 times. We just binned him. And then... Nicky Argent, similar situation, playing against Josh Macmillan. There were a lot of terrain features with little holes and stuff that he was able to shoot through. So, it was Dawn of War against Sisters, which is classically quite a hard game, but Nick applied the pressure really early, swung it to Hammer and Anvil, pushed along a side and got a 12-8 win. So we won that round pretty handily. I believe the final result was like a 55-25 win. A 49-31 win. So, that rounded out day one really well for the full send team. 2 wins and a draw. Got some rest, got some dinner.
Them all against the Pokemon. Well done.
Oh, mate. Didn't catch them all. Dineeth got a draw, but we still did all right. So that was a really good round as well. I played Richard. He had some Beast and Nurgle, and I was lucky enough to get 2 big Null Zones off and Whirlwind, and then all the Sangard went in and they did some damage. So great game against Richard. Lovely to meet him. Then we had some dinner. I definitely had a bit of wine with Sam Rubino, and then got home, had a good night's sleep, and then we went into Sunday, mate. And Geordie, who'd you have Sunday morning?
Sunday, fun day. We had Devil Trigger going into Sunday, so I'd say the draw from round 3 kind of moved us into this position, and a few other little changes up top. But we ended up playing Devil Trigger. So Eric's list went into a Josh Ullman on his Necrons. Aaron was playing against Jaden Russick on his Adeptus Custodes. We had Diffie play against Thomas Chenloop as Death Guard list, and I was playing against Lawrence Bigley, and he was playing Blood Angels as well. So it's BAs versus BAs. Eric ended up getting a win, 17-3. Aaron went 20-0. Josh went down 8-12. It was a high-scoring game for Josh, and it was 82 to Thomas and 70 to Josh going down. And I 20-0'd the other Blood Angels player. So it was a good round. It was pretty funny at one stage. Eric's just turned to me because he knew Diffie was going down. He's turned to me, and he didn't think he was going to get a big win because of the Necrons. He's turned to me and said, I need you to get a 20. I was like, okay. And he's turned around and looked at the table, and he's put his hands on his head, and he's just going, fuck, he's going down. He's going down to the Blood Angels list. And then I said, no, they're my Blood Angels, not his Blood Angels. And Eric went, oh, it's okay. It was the most confusing table. It was just red and gold everywhere. It was like, what's going on here? But Lawrence was a really good dude. He actually knew his rules really well. He knew the mission rules really well. He knew the rulebook rules really well in regards to some of the finer detail stuff, which was really good to see. He was kind of new to Blood Angels. I think he's new to 9th edition in general, but he'd been playing a lot of practice games. But yeah, it was one of those rounds where against him, he just didn't have. I combat squatted my entire army, and he didn't have enough bombs. So he got first turn. He moved all his troops onto objectives. It was on vital intelligence. So moved his troops onto objectives and putting 1 or 2 like blade guard behind them. So I moved my vets out and killed all the troops. So I would have more bodies on the objective, and I would turn the objective so he wouldn't score them. So basically, turn one was me jumping out and killing all his troops. So I'd whirlwind one and then charge the other. And then basically it was me and him fighting over his 3 objectives all game. It was my 3 never went anywhere near them. And he had 1 big unit of Sanguinary Guard, and that was my biggest threat because it could pick up multiple units if it hit me. So I kind of baited him early game, and I charged the Death Company up into his main objective on the backfield, and there was some Vanguard vets sitting on it. So charged into them, killed them. But when I made the charge, I swung them around so that they would be facing towards the Sangard, so there would be an easy bait for the Sangard to want to come and charge them. And the plan worked exactly well. The Sangard jumped over, killed them, and I was fine with that. But it set where because the Sangard's unit was so large, it set my Sangard unit for the next turn to charge that big unit. And the math of it is 5 Sangard kills 10. So 5 Sangard ran in with full rerolls and just wiped out 10 of them. And then it just it just turned the game on its head. He had no troops left, so he wasn't holding objectives. And then basically I just ran away with primary at that stage, ended up scoring 99 points to 40. So
nice, dude.
Yeah, it was just using the violent speed and all the melee units to just dominate objectives and smash. But then last turn, surprisingly charged this Blade Guard unit with 3 units of mine, and it wipes one of my units out and doesn't die. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, this unit will not die. He had a Judicia with the Selfless Valor, which was the 6-inch heroic, which is really irritating to deal with as well, because every time you charge it, it just heroics and makes something fight last. So that was really tough to deal with, because he would then cast fight first. I'd hit it with a whirlwind to turn off the fight first, and it didn't work. The interaction got very frustrating, but by this stage I had owned all the objectives anyway. So it was just more of a slowly getting tabled and doing all the damage I could do. So it was an awesome game. We had a good laugh at the end of it, and he learned a lot about how the Blood Angels want to play. He also learned a little bit about list design too, because he'd kind of built a list with what he had, and he was trying to decide what other units he wanted. And I told him to probably steer away from the big 10-man units because they just get picked up too easy. So it was a good round, man. We ended up winning pretty comfortably. I think the final score at the end of the round was 65-15 to us. So it was awesome. And then we were playing into Matt Morrisoli's team round 5, which I'll talk about next.
Yeah, dude. Nice. And Liam, what about you? Round 4, you guys had the Brody's team. Hey, Chad Guard.
Round 4, we played Chad Guard. Yep. And just before we talk about round 4 again, because we knew who we were going to play that night, we had quite a long chat about our pairings and sort of adjusted a few things there. Josh Brody was looking pretty worse for wear at the start of this round. I really hope Josh is doing okay now. At the end of this round, I actually had a bit of a chat to Josh. He's just feeling pretty sick and run down at the start of that day, and I really hope he's bounced back by this point. So in this round, we basically, I actually forget how the pairings turned out in this round, but because we're playing on those 1-4 tables, like I played against Art of War Hive Mind, we knew these tables quite well by this point, and we knew who would benefit from which tables. So in this particular round, I ended up getting an orange for me. I ended up playing the Adeptus Mechanicus army, which was a Lucius army of over 100 models and heaps of guns. But I actually put myself up in this round purely because then I could pick the table that Ben played Aaron on earlier on in the tournament, because I knew that, for example, I could actually deploy Magnus on the table and he'd be out of line of sight and he'd be safe. And it did go to plan. He ended up going first, which meant that he had to bring his units forwards, and then things like Magnus and the Keeper Khalifas and the Helldrakes could all jump out and charge heaps of units, and it sort of went downhill from there. I ended up winning 18-2 there, which I'm pretty stoked about in an AdMech matchup. Lachlan ended up playing Jeremy Brody, who was playing Drakari, and it was an 11-9 there, so a very close game with Jeremy taking the win. Brian ended up playing Josh Brody, who, as I said, was feeling a bit worse for wear, and Brian got the big 20-0. And then Ben ended up playing Igor, playing Necrons, which is a really interesting Necron list, and Ben went down. 8-12 there. So a solid 55-25 for round 4, putting us at 4-0. Going into our last round, which we'll talk about in a sec. Dineeth, what about you?
Yeah, dude, awesome. And it was funny. We kind of looked at the leaderboard the night before, didn't we? And we thought, wait a minute, if Tallhammer wins and Full Send wins, our team, and if the game between Adam's team and Lee's team is tight, it could be an All Blokes versus an All Blokes final. So we kind of went into that round being like, okay, boys, we need to avoid these reds. We need to just get everyone into a good position and play hard. So we played the bottom table Bruisers, which consisted of Jason on Chaos Knights, Alex Rimmel on Dark Angels, Jamie on Drakari, and Ryan on Admech. So the pairings were really interesting here. We had a pretty good sheet overall, but we had a couple of things we didn't want. I definitely didn't want to play the Drakari. Once again, that was the one red in the Matrix. And Nick wasn't super keen to play into the Dark Angels. So kind of like before, me and Nick were the ones that were in the pairings process. We decided to put Sam as a champ because we were playing on, some tables that were pretty heavy and, didn't really matter. And we wanted to bully with Wayne, see what would happen. So Wayne gets put up first. And they actually paired the Drakari into Wayne, so we immediately went, "Cool, that's great." We don't have to worry about that matchup for everyone else. Wayne got to pick his table and was pretty happy. And then they actually put up their Admech, and that was really interesting. So, well, Admech came up next, and we put Nick into that, and I actually fell into the Knight matchup, which was a big green for me, the one that I wanted, because as we know, Blood Angels have a good time punching Knights, which left Sam into the Dark Angels, as champ. So our sheet looked really good. We ended up having 3 greens and a yellow, and it went really well. Wayne in the yellow ended up getting a 10-10 draw against the Drakari, which we were really happy about, really happy about, just because he could hold the points on. I got a 15-5 win against the Knights. I thought I could do a bit better. I failed a few key charges and probably could have played a bit better that game, but got a 15-5, so I was happy with that. Sam actually got a 10-10 draw against Alex Rimmel, and Alex obviously played a really good game to facilitate that. So we were on 35 points, and then we all looked over at Nick's game against Ryan, and it's on turn 2, and we've got 45 minutes left in the round, and we're all like, "Come on, Nick, we need you to get 8 points out of this game," and it was. Nick's opponent had done a really good job of keeping him in his deployment zone and really slowed down the game of the Knights with the bombers and stuff like that. So really good pressure by Ryan, the Admech player. But Nick had a really big turn 2 and 3 and just swept through and ended up getting a big 20-0 and tabled his opponent. So we won the round 55-25. And that, and I was looking over to the tables and I was looking at... the other team that was in contention. Actually, sorry, it wasn't Adam and Lee's team. It was Lee and Matt Morosoli's team that were in contention. And Stuart Trainer just told me that the opposition team were in draw territory, so there wasn't a chance of them coming up to the final. So from that point, I knew it was going to be Liam's team versus Dineeth's team in the final, mate.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, so one more round to go. Geordie, who did you guys play in the final round?
We played TMNT, which was Matt Morosoli's team. There was no pairing in this game. Soli walked over to the table and said, "Eric, give me your cards." And Eric gave me his cards, and they threw the cards on the table. Soli shuffled them all around and said, "You're playing him, you're playing him, you're playing him, you're playing him." And then we all walked off and went and played our games on some tables. And it was the greatest pairing. I think it definitely went really well for us. So we had Aaron was playing against Blake Henderson's Chaos list. Eric was playing into Augustus Hemblewhite, which was on Harlequins. We had Diffie playing against Grey Knights, so it's Stewie Trainer's Grey Knights, and it was me playing into Drakari, into Matt Morosoli. So Aaron got 100 points, so he got a 20-0. Eric went 14-6 against the Harlequins. I remember Eric telling me he kept the Harlequins to a 20 primary, which is I almost find it impossible to believe, because Harlequins are, their troops are what do all their work, so they also hold objectives with them as well, which is pretty insane. And Diffie also went into Stewie Trainer's Grey Knights, which he ended up having a draw, and it was pretty amazing to watch because we were there, the final table they were playing, and it was high strung. Diffie pulled out some cool little tricks. He advanced a squad of I think it was 3 sisters across the table and spent a CP to advance and charge for Bloody Rose. Charges into a unit of, I think it was Purifiers on an objective, who are not OBSEC. He has to fight them in combat because he couldn't get onto the objective otherwise. Charges and gets onto the objective, and then one sister survives, ends up holding the objective at the end of the game and pulls a draw out of his hat.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
It was really cool. So, and I ended up playing Matt Morrisoli. Now, this was the best game I had all weekend. Just because I did not see this coming from a mile away. I deployed. I was pretty happy with my deployment. I had a decent table. We were playing priority targets, so 5 objectives, 1 in the middle. So I could always pick the mission. So I picked the mission. I picked engage on all fronts, and then I also picked. I can't remember what was my last pick. Oh, Oath of the Moment.
Oh, really? Big surprise there,
yeah.
mate.
I know. And so
really mixing it up with the Blood Angel.
I know. So we set up. We got our stuff all on the table, and I was looking around at his deployment zone, and he's picked While We Stand. His While We Stands with Drazar, the Hellions, and the 20-man rack unit with the 5 liquefiers. By the way, that unit sucks. It's so annoying. And he's picked the secondaries where you just keep him out of deployments, out of quarters, and you score points. And of course, he picked the mission as well, which isn't hard. I go first. I run the Death Company across the table, and I see 2 boats standing right next to them, and I'm like, or I can charge the Hellions and pick up a While We Stand. And I probably would do it with the Death Company. So I was like, but I ended up changing my mind. I went for the 2 boats because I'm like, he's got 6 boats. If I can clear a couple of them, I throw the Death Company into the boats. I put a hammer into each, and 2 chainswords into one into the other. The first hammer whiffs a little bit of its hits, only gets 3 hits through, 3 wounds, and he saves one of them. But then the 2 chainswords manage to pick the boat up right on, bang on 10 wounds, just kills the boat. Then the other hammer just overrolls and just annihilates the boat. So I've taken 2 boats out with 5 Death Company in the first turn. I'm going, this is going well for me. And I'd kind of set myself up in an L, and I had a heap of units sitting in this L, and I was just basically going to keep buffing them and ascending them. And I was right near the center objective, and I put the Sangard on the front. So if he came onto the objective, I could heroic into the objective and steal it off him, which never ended up happening. But it was the best game I played all weekend, and I played really well. Matt ended up scoring 95 points, so I tried to shut down a While We Stand. I missed out by 1, the Hellions, and then he auto-passed morale. Threw some Sangard into him, and he just managed to roll 1/6 up. It was enough to pass it, and didn't get Drazar. I missed the chance there, and Matt ended up scoring 40 for primary, and then he scored 45 for the rest of his secondary. So I played a really good game. I was really happy with it. But the coolest trick I did all game against him was I had a Chapter Master on the center objective. I had my Priest, who was not on the objective, was on my side of the table, but within 6 inches of the Chapter Master, and he makes, because he's got Rights of War, he makes characters OBSEC. So he's holding it. He's got a boat with the tip of the boat's nose on the objective. He gets a bunch of witches out, charges into the Chapter Master. After his charge the Chapter Master, I heroic the Priest onto the objective but I don't touch the unit. I just get within a couple of inches of the unit. But so I'm not the closest, so he still has to go towards the Chapter Master. I turn off his OBSEC, and I am OBSEC, giving me 10 points in my last turn, which got me closer.
That's
to
huge,
the
man.
Yeah, I played. It was the best game of 40k I played. And at the end of the game, Matt just said, he's like, mate, Drakari are busted. They're impossible to beat. He goes, but you did everything right. He goes, there was only one mistake you made all game, and that was when I charged the Sangard in. I hit the Hellions. Drazar, I charged 2 veterans into Drazar just so I could tie him up so he couldn't heroic into the Sangard. Because if he did, he made me fight last, and it could just ruin everything. So I threw 2 vets in, but the problem was Drazar fought the vets, killed them, and then piled in towards the Sangard, and then fought them and killed them. And he goes, that was the only mistake that I made all game, which I was really happy with. And I knew I played a really good game because I was looking at the score and I was going, I might have this. I could actually win this game. If I'd picked up 2 while we stands, I could have actually won the game. So, or got pretty close to winning it. So that was awesome.
Dude.
Matt was a fantastic opponent. And you can just tell he's a top tier player. Last turn, like turn 4, I go to redeploy some Sangard that I had on the table with the intention to come down and kill that last Hellion, or maybe pick up the racks. It was mainly going for that last Hellion, and as I've gone to redeploy him, said nothing to him. He's just advanced all his stuff and just surrounded this Hellion, and I was just like, yeah, he knew what I was doing. He knew straight away what I was doing. So it was just a real disappointment to to see that happen. But at the same time, man, it was such an awesome game, and I did a little trick too when the 20 racks came down. The hand flamer vets Auspex scanned them, which was a good laugh.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, Drakari gives such a good target. Like, you get such a good payoff on Auspex on Drakari models, hey?
Yeah, that's right. So, and that's why those hand flamers are so important. I kind of set the bait up early if any of the Witcher units tried to come in and charge me, I could use hand flamers to kill them in combat. That was essentially why the hand flamers were added into the list, just to deal with Drakari. But yeah, it was good. It was really good. So
yeah, nice, dude. And where did you guys finish overall on the ladder?
I think we ended up finishing 5th overall.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so we were happy that last round, going 52-28 against Matt's team. And we all got to enjoy the pack up, the fun part.
Well, yeah, Matt's team would have gone undefeated. They drew against us. They must have gotten 3 wins after that. Or did they go down to...
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, good work.
Yeah, so it was good, man. I think they might have got another draw, which put us into them as well.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, it was good. It was a good way to finish the day. I was really happy with that last game. So I finished on a high, even though I lost. I was really happy. And our team won that round, so we were satisfied with 5th place, considering the day. So it was good.
Nice, dude. Yeah, and it was really cool with our round 5. We knew for a while, for a good hour and a half before the round, that the 2 Normal Blokes teams were playing. So to set the scene, it's Dineeth's team with We've got the Blood Angels, the Death Guard, the Drakari, and the Chaos Knights against Liam's team. You've got Brian on Drakari, the Artist Drakari, Liam on his Thousand Suns Chaos list. We've got Ben Warrior on an army called Death Guard that I've never heard of, and Lockie Carter on Raven Guard. So looking at the pairings, I reckon, do you want to... I'll do my spreadsheet first, Liam, and then you can look at your pairings. I'll discuss your pairings.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, cool. So looking at our sheet, we had a few things we didn't want in this game, and one of those things was me or Sam playing Brian's Drakari, because Brian's Drakari list was awesome. It had an Artist of Flesh detachment, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's one of the best anti-Drakari things you can take is neg 1 damage on Covens and just run either Talos or Grotesques, and you're just so durable. So they were the 2 big reds in the Matrix. I probably should have had Liam as a red, but I had him as a yellow. So what ended up happening is we were playing on the stream tables. There were 2 fairly light ones, 1 heavy ruin one, and 1 heavy kind of obscuring line of sight blocking one. And the heavy obscuring line of sight blocking one right down the end was actually called the light table, but it had that was the one that Liam mentioned before, could hide Mortarion. So really solid table for some players. And we won the roll-off. Liam's team put up Lockie Carter's Raven Guard, and I looked at my pairings matrix and went, okay, this is good for Sam. It's a good game for Sam. It's on green on the matrix, and it gets him out of a red. And me and Nick both have Lockie Carter as oranges, so I'm not getting anywhere near that. Sam goes straight in and clears the field. Awesome. So Sam gets out of playing Brian. Then I put myself up, and Liam goes in. Liam's had some really good games against Blood Angels. We go on to, I pick the table. I picked the wrong table, just like Geordie. So there was the table Geordie picked. I picked the one next to it because I go, okay, there's more ruins here. There's more line of sight blocking. And in my deployment zone, those little ruins don't have any holes in the windows. Turns out, though, the ones right in the middle of the board do. And I got binned. And then that left Nick Argent falling into Brian. And we had Wayne in champ just in case Brian was there, and we had Nick Argent in pairings just in case Brian went up. So I was really glad that Nick went into Brian, but unfortunately that left Nick and Brian playing on the table that I should have picked, the bloody heavy one. And then Wayne caught Ben in champion as a Death Guard player. So before we go into the results, Liam, what were your thoughts on the pairings before we went in?
Yeah, so going in, I think we got a couple of things right and a couple of things wrong in terms of our ratings. So going in there, I had our game being something that was quite good. Obviously, overall, a couple of the lists in your team put me straight in the bin, not the recycling bin, like the smelly fish skins bin. Basically, just for the record, Dineeth, your team was, for me as an individual, the worst possible pairings. There is no team that I had so many bad matchups. Yep. But even probably better / worse, your team overall was a pretty rough set of pairings for us. So to look at my spreadsheet, I had one green, that was yourself, and then I had an orange, and a red that is so red. It's look, I'm never even going to get 1 point. It's a guaranteed 20 zip. So it was pretty horrific. And so as soon as you put yourself up, Dineeth, I was like, look, there is literally not another option for me to play this team. I'm going into this one because otherwise I might as well just pack up my army and go home a little bit early, get the early flight. Other than that, we were thinking that Lockie... See, a Raven Guard army for pairings is really interesting, right? Because if it goes first, it can just punish people so hard that even a bad matchup can be swung. So having Lockie in the team was really good because he could pair into something like, Sam's Drakari, and it could still potentially go right. It's a tough game, a really bad matchup, but because it's Raven Guard and it can Alpha Strike so well, we kind of thought, hey, look, maybe he'll get some points. Ben as champ into Wayne. Ben had yellowed that game, thinking that he could probably eke out a small win or a small loss in that game. And then Brian playing Nick again. Yeah, pretty much exactly like you said. Brian had orange that. But as soon as we got to the pairings process on that table, Brian comes to me and says, it's a green for me, man. On this table, I know I can do well because I can deploy 2,000 points in one ruin. The size of the ruins on that table were preposterous. I actually measured them, man. They're 15.5 inches. Like each wall is 15.5.
Goodness, that's huge.
So Brian actually deployed, like 6 raiders or whatever it was. I think it's 5 raiders in his list, all the Talos, every single model in his army out of line of sight. Nick went first. And then Brian was like, cool. Your entire turn's wasted. Enjoy yourself.
Wow.
So honestly, table mattered hugely. And like Dineeth mentioned, the table in our game, like my game against Jordan, made a massive difference because we're playing the mission priority targets, which is the diagonal deployment. But what that meant is that the deployment zone has a really long front line, so to speak. So what was really valuable for me was I have a redeploy for both my Heldrakes and my Sorcerer and my Rubrics because it's my Warlord plus D3, and also Magnus can move, 30 trillion inches. So one of the advantages here was that Dineeth, again, a lot like Jordan did and a lot like the other Blood Angel player did, is that he clumped and you combat squatted and you did combat squad, and you sort of clumped your models in that ruin to keep them safe from the 2d6 smite, which is 100% the right thing to do. But it meant that a cheeky Infernal Gateway got off first turn. I got the d6 version, but here's the funny thing. Against Dineeth, pretty sure I got 1/6 on a Never Heard of Your Death Company unit or something like that. But then I pretty much rolled a 1 or a 2 or a 3 for every other roll. And
I just Soul Warden them all, hey?
Soul Warden went hard. I did 4 wounds. I did 4 wounds to your Librarian, and I was like, "This is it." And you're like, 5, 5, 5, 1, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. That's fine. No worries." I didn't want to do any damage anyway. But yeah, it's the tough thing about this mission is that because it sort of looks like it's diagonal deployment, like Vanguard, like Vital Intelligence, but because the deployment zone goes from the corner straight to the halfway line, the actual front line is huge. It's actually, I think, the second longest deployment zone, which means that armies that can like teleport or move twice, like Thousand Suns, can cover that ground, which even an army like Blood Angels, which is fast, I don't think it can actually do super effectively. So it kind of got hard, and I think you'll agree, Dineeth, like by about turn 3, it was kind of like I could be anywhere on the table. And so it sort of meant that I could just be wherever I needed to be. It was a rough game. But I'm really, really proud of my boys overall. Spoiler alert, we ended up getting the Wubbaloo. So in that round...
Hold on, Liam. Hold on.
I'm telling the story.
I think the round was a draw.
You are correct. Hang on. Let me fact check myself. Oh no, I'm rounding up here because we've got more round points to.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, to tell the story factually, while Facebook fact checks my fake news. So Lockie played Sam Rubino and went down 3-17. So Sam got the 17. Which, to be honest, Lockie leaned sort of. I was playing on the table next to Lachlan and Sam, and Lockie leans into me like right in my ear and goes, "I'm getting cucked," and I'm like, I was like, "Oh, okay, Lockie." I think Lockie ended up going second, so that's fine. I ended up playing Dineeth and getting a solid 20. Brian played Nick. Again, it is normally a hard matchup for Brian. Chaos Knights are really good at deboating the Drukhari, but the table was huge for Brian, so he ended up getting a 16-4. And Ben and Wayne, Ben got a mighty 2 points, and old Wayno from the podcast, got 18 against Ben, thoroughly putting him in the pus bus.
I have never seen a happier Wayne, mate. I've never seen a happier Wayne.
I can imagine how happy Wayne was. I can absolutely imagine. But look, overall, it was a tough round for both teams, I think, because the pairings were tough, and also so, for example, I think you actually did very well in pairings. We got the tables that we needed to get the draw.
That's it.
Because, like being perfectly honest, I think we lost pairings in terms of like the matchups overall. But again, that orange for Brian flipped straight to a yellow or even a green on that table. And that's what, if you look at an adjusted sheet, I think we ended up winning in that respect.
That's it,
and, the tables made a huge difference. That's really all I wanted to say.
Yeah, honestly, it shows so much, doesn't it? Like how much something like that, which like not just for a newer player, but for, more experienced players, can be a big oversight. It's sometimes not just about picking the table you need. It's about looking down the line going, what could that matchup be? What do we need for that player? And really keeping that in the back of your mind. So it's definitely a big learning experience for me. Even though I felt really confident with some of the pairings we did this weekend, something I can really improve on is picking tables for my team and making sure I have a big overview. When a player goes, Dineeth, can I take this table? I can say, yes or no, depending on what I think is going to happen. So it's definitely something we can improve on. But yeah, man, it was a really cool way to close the event. Playing friends, and there were definitely some good moments, some funny moments. You had a big 6-inch heroic, and I was like, Liam. But there was like a point where like I didn't charge far enough. Liam heroic popped some strats, and it was like a 15-point swing, and I was like, wow, that was incredible. You're so fucking smart, and I'm so fucking stupid for not thinking of that.
The 6-inch heroic on the keeper.
That
was pretty intense.
That was dope, man. And then right at the start, I was picking secondaries, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do with this third one? I might do this. And Liam's like, Dineeth, what mission are you playing? And I was like,
pick the mission one.
I should probably pick the mission one. Thanks, Liam. And this is like in the final of a big team event. and like we can still be
Yeah. So look, when you're listing your secondaries, because you had them written down on the book.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wrote mine down too. And I'm like, oh, what are you taking, Dineeth? And you list your 3. And I look at you and go, all right, Dineeth, I'm going to take priority targets.
And I was like, fuck.
Oh, so good. But yeah, man, of course I was going to let you change that. There's no point going into a game like that with a massive disadvantage just because you know a mission we're playing. Yeah. The other funny thing about our game was that we had this weird interaction where Dineeth was going to null zone my keeper so that it didn't have an invo save and kill it. But then the thing was, to null zone me, you have to be within 6 inches.
Huge, yeah.
And I had that particular keeper was the one with the forbidden gem, and so Dineeth was like, okay, do I like stay within 12 and do it, or do I stay outside of 12 and do it? And like, I'm sort of watching I'm watching like the cogs turn, and eventually you go, but Liam, if I'm outside 12, I can't charge you, can I? And I'm like, no, Dineeth, no, you cannot.
Yeah.
It's like,
The only
it's
way
like,
I could have done it is like swapping out a power like into Wings of Sanguinius or something, but I'm pretty sure that stratagem doesn't allow me to do that. But yeah, I was like, there's no feasible way for me to do this because there's no one else to charge.
Oh, it was a very like very techie game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. There was this other awesome combat with Sangard, Rubric Marine, 2 of Dineeth's characters, 3 of my characters, all in this one like sort of mosh pit combat where order of operations mattered
Super
so
important.
much.
Yeah.
It was actually a really interesting game. I really enjoyed that game.
It was fun, man. And right at the end, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and not get 20. I'm going to drop my Plas Scepters, going to try blow up Magnus, charge this Helldrake, get points on Oath, and do all this stuff. And like, I got a few points, but even that last minute, I was like, what the fuck can I do to get over 50 points so I don't get a 20? But yeah, man, it was sick, and you know, we unfortunately had to run off pretty early to get our flight, and we missed the awards and stuff. But big thank you to Soli and the Vic boys for running such a good event. Anything else to add, guys?
The venue was awesome.
Yeah, dude, it was sick. Geordie, I know you've been quiet for a bit. Anything else to add before we finish?
No, man, it was a good event. It was run really well. Yeah, I think we learned a lot from the event. So we'll definitely be, if it ever comes up again and we go back to Victoria for another team's event, we will be prepared.
100%. I'll definitely go back.
Yeah, I'd definitely go again. But yeah, thank you guys. It's been a bit of a mammoth episode actually, but thanks for following along. If you enjoy team events, try and hit up your local TOs to run some, or if you have some nearby, definitely get yourself to them. Up here in Brisbane, Josh McGowan through Gladiator Gaming runs team events every second month. So if you can get 3 of your pals together, definitely enter a team. It's an awesome way to play 40K. If you've been listening to us, we talk about team events all the time. So yeah, and we love it. And definitely down to Vic, we took some guys who never traveled for 40K before, and they had such a good time. But yeah, and if you have any questions about the process, feel free to message the podcast, leave a comment on Facebook or on our website, and we can get back to you. But yeah, if you liked our stuff, subscribe to us on iTunes, give us a like on Facebook. We're on YouTube as well, so leave any comments there, we'll reply to you. But yeah, we also have a patron to help us cover our costs on www.patreon.com/thenormalblokes. But hope you guys have a good week. Stay safe, and see you around next time.
Cheers.
See ya.